Ms. Lehman, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Go ahead.
The events of November 30th of 2021 undeniably changed people's lives in ways that most people could never imagine. 4 children lost their lives. Families were destroyed, and a community was terrorized. But this case is not about what happened inside of Oxford High School. This case is about what happened outside of Oxford High School. The prosecution alleges that James Crumbley was aware that his son was a danger to others, and that he failed to protect other people from his son. The prosecution alleges that James Crumbley had knowledge that his son could and would hurt other people, and that he failed to protect those people, that he failed to take steps to protect others. And ladies and gentlemen, that simply is not true. You will hear evidence in this case of what occurred inside of Oxford High School. You will hear the prosecution's version of what they claim James Crumbley may have known. You will hear that a gun was purchased on November 26th of 2021 by James Crumbley. You will hear what kind of a gun it was. It was a handgun. You will hear how it was stored. You may hear where it was stored. You will hear whether or not Mr. Crumbley's son knew where that firearm was. Pay attention also to what you don't hear. Pay attention to that you won't hear that James Crumbley knew that his son knew where that firearm was. Ladies and gentlemen, James Crumbley was not aware that his son had access to that firearm. You will hear testimony that access was not allowed in James Crumbley's mind. Ladies and gentlemen, you will not hear that James Crumbley knew what his son was going to do. You will not hear that James Crumbley even suspected that his son was a danger. That math homework that the prosecution is putting up on the screen, you're going to hear about that. You're going to hear about what other people thought about that. People at the school, including James Crumbley. There's going to be probably quite a bit of discussion about that piece of math homework, ladies and gentlemen, and you're going to hear all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, James Crumbley did not know what his son was going to do. He did not know that his son could potentially harm other people. He did not know what his son was planning. He did not purchase that gun with the knowledge that his son may use it against other people. You will not hear that he did that. The prosecution told you that. The prosecution just told you you're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear that James Crumbley purchased that gun with the knowledge that his son was going to go harm other people. But what the prosecution wants you to believe, the part that's not true, is that James Crumbley knew what his son was going to do and knew that he had a duty to protect other people from his son. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not true. He didn't know. You're going to hear about James Crumbley's relationship with his son. There may be other witnesses who testify about that, about how James interacted with his son, including on the day when that math homework was shown. You're going to hear from other people. They're going to tell you, in their own words, what they observed about James Crumbley and his son, about what they observed about his son, about any concerns they may have had. Other people, not just James Crumbley, but other people with additional education, additional training to evaluate situations like this and evaluate individuals. You're going to hear from those people probably. And they're going to tell you in their own words what they thought about the math homework, about Mr. Crumbley's son, about Mr. Crumbley's interactions with his son. Yes, James Crumbley was a DoorDash driver. We all know that. It's been said multiple times. Ladies and gentlemen, being a DoorDash driver doesn't mean that your job is any less important to you or other people than any other job. It doesn't mean that you don't feel that you have a duty to go to work. And ladies and gentlemen, when you're not aware of an immediate, imminent danger, why would you do anything different than what you normally do? You wouldn't, because you don't have any reason to think you need to. So ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear the evidence. You've heard a lot of questions in the last couple of days from both the prosecution and myself. You probably have an idea where each side lands on these issues. But you're going to hear the evidence. You're going to hear from people other than us. And you're going to be able to hear in their words what they thought about those days from November 26th to November 30th of 2021. And their feelings, what they observed, any concerns that they may or may not have had. The prosecution has asked you repeatedly to follow the law. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Please do follow the law. And I'm confident, we are confident, that if you do that, if you follow the law, that you will find James Crumbley not guilty. Thank you.